In this video clip, I'm going to show you how to make a non-academic request, also known as a special request. At this point in time, you want to look at your home page. You access it by going under the Service Request tab. An example of a special request is anything that is not a class. For example, a one-on-one meeting with your professor, a tutoring session, an on-campus event, a club meeting, social activities, or anything of that sort that isn't directly a weekly class meeting. So what you're going to do is go under the Service Request tab, as I already mentioned, and go under Make a New Request and select Make a Request. So the first thing you're going to do is include or check the event type. We've got a variety here, and they're all explained as you scroll over them if you're not sure what event type you're looking for. I'm going to select COS, COE. This is a College of Science and a College of Engineering. Now, if this request that you're making, for example, is related to a class, such as meeting with your professor for outside help or a class meeting for group work, you would want to select course related. And once that comes up, then you're going to select the course number that is the class in and of itself. Then you're going to go down to event title and type in the title of the event, whatever it may be. And then details. Now, the best thing to do is provide as much information as you can think of regarding this event. That way the service provider, whether it be an interpreter, a real-time C-print captionist, or a note taker, is fully aware of what is going to happen at the event, and they are able to prepare appropriately. Also, with the event details, this is where you would include any information about your preferred interpreter for that assignment. Then you're going to select whatever service type you are requesting for, whether it be interpreting, C-print, or note-taking. Down here under Event Organizer Information are 3 radio buttons. Typically, if you're requesting for yourself, you would leave it as I am the event organizer, have that checked. If you're requesting on behalf of somebody else, you would check the I have the event organizer's DCE, and I'll show you what that looks like. You have to put this person's DCE in here so that the request gets tied with that person. If you do not have that individual's DCE, then you can look them up by name, email, or phone. Then next, you have to schedule the event. Enter the date, whether typing it or just selecting the calendar. This checkbox right here says continues on to the next day. You only select this if, for example, it's an event that is over multiple days and it occurs overnight. For example, a residence life retreat. Sometimes those go more than 8, 10, 12 hours, and it continues throughout the next day. So that's the checkbox you want to select. But for most requests, you're just going to have the date and the time and then the start and the end time. Now you can either enter a known location or you can enter TBA. This allows the space to be filled in, which is mandatory, as you can tell by the little red asterisks right here. If the location is not known, you can go back and enter it later. And also, here's where you can add any additional notes that you want to be considered for the assigning and scheduling process. So what you need to do is select Save Date and Time Info. If you do not save the date and the time info, the request will not be processed. Now, if your event is more than one time, for example, if it's a weekly meeting or a weekly club gathering, then you're going to want to go up here and select Recurrence. This means it is scheduled ongoing. And you can set the information, the date and the time, and you can have it occur weekly or monthly, and also weekly or bi-weekly, how often you want it to occur. Then you have the days, and then you can select if it runs during a specific time period, or you can choose the dates where this event will happen with the starting and the ending. And then again the location, and then you would have to save the recurrence. I'm not going to enter any of that information. I'm just going to go back to a single one-time scheduling request. So I'm going to go back up here and go back to the one-time event. So I've already got the original one I created up here in blue. I don't need to create another one, so I'm going to go on to next. This is the participation information. If you're requesting for yourself, then you just leave this radio button checked. If you're requesting for someone else, you select this radio button, and then you have to include their DCE information over here. Okay, now go on to next. So this is the review and the final submit for the request. You have your organizer event information, the service type, the details, the date and the time, and the attendee information. At any point, you can go back and edit these dates, the event details, and the attendees just by selecting any of these buttons. Once you've reviewed this and you're satisfied with what the request looks like, click on Complete Request. Now at this point, once it is created in the system, you will have a confirmation. And this confirmation is telling you that you successfully created this request. And you can also check over here under the Quick Service Request list. Now another option, once you have this information, you want to check on the status of this request or any other requests. You can click over here. And you have a new request here. This is the one we just created. The coordinator of the area has not yet seen or processed it. But suppose you want to change some information about it. You can go back in again, and this provides information about the event, as we've seen before. And also, at this point, after the event, if you choose to leave feedback, this is where you would do it. So this is the feedback form, the questionnaire. Basically, you'd go through it, and if you want to include a personal response, you can include your name and your email with your feedback just by checking this box, like that, but it's not necessary. You leave general feedback here based on some questions, either 1 to 5 or NA, which is not applicable. And then if you have any other comments that you'd like to add right here, feel free to include those in the text box. Now from this screen, if you realized that you have the request on the wrong date or need to modify the request or potentially cancel it, from this screen is where you would do it. You go under the Schedule box, select Edit. Now you have a checkbox here, which if you select that checkbox, that would cancel the event. But this is also where you can change the date, the time, the location. Remember, as before I mentioned that you can fill in the location information with TBA. And then once a location is set, then this is where you would make that modification. And then you would save changes, or you can cancel changes as whatever you would like to do. So you can cancel right here and then save the changes, and that would cancel the request. And notice right here is the confirmation of your change. You'd have the time entered, the status of it, and then the information that you input.